from the gold that they cut or the silver that they cut. But you have just that amount of silver or gold, and then you begin to like remint the coins by adding different metals like lead, or just like make them from lead and cover them with gold or cover them with silver. It's just a thin layer of silver. Yeah, I mean, you probably saw that on some movie somewhere, or like read about it. I don't know.
Yes, I've definitely heard about that. But with that said, everybody, welcome to another magnificent Terran Tuesday. We've been live for a minute and a half, hearing all about coins and coin manipulations for a while. That's all right. It was a good one, so I thought we'd just go live, get a little bit, because this is the free form, the free form one.
See, there you see us on air while y'all were listening. Now that we're nice.
There you go, right? And I hope all y'all are doing good out there. We got some of our usual crowd flooding in. We got Wrangler over here.
Hello, Wrangler.
Mr. Wrangler here for another magnificent episode. We're on the 90th episode, guys, podcast or whatever. Yes, more Officer Graham coming through down there in the chat. Always joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope everyone is feeling good.
Yeah.
What did you do for, let's say, for a meal today?
Today I was just being lazy. I had a lazy meal. I had
You're just being modest. You probably cooked like a 3-course traditional Mexican meal or something. I don't know.
I just had a cold steak, a little piece of cold steak.
Cold steak.
That's nice. It was almost jerky at that point.
Jerky.
Almost.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm a very simple individual, low maintenance.
Snow, what did you do for food today?
Okay. So my daughter came over and she's like this next door to me, and she was like, "Do you want some food?" And I'm like, "Well, sure, if you're making it, yeah, And so she made a beef with rotund, like so. It's like the chilies and tomato and onion, and she put the ground beef in that, and she put it in the rice. It sort of made like a Mexican rice mix, and it was so spicy. I was so happy because I've got this really bad cold, and I was like, I want something that's spicy, and so she made it because that's how I usually get over my cold. In fact, I have a trick where I would take like a little Tabasco sauce, and you take some, and it clears out your sinuses. It will make you feel so much better. But so I don't have any Tabasco sauce, which is terrible. So she made that for me, and I was really good. But now it's like been 4 hours, and now I'm sniffy again. So I sound terrible. Please love me. I need.
Well, I did. In my case, I prepared since yesterday. I made dough for milky bread with milk and butter, which I baked today. James, if you go to my Substack, you'll find the picture of it if you want to show it. I promised someone to take pictures, otherwise I'm not usually doing that. It's just yeah. They're just obsessed with my bread. What can I say? And then I cooked a special stew. Do you know what it makes it special? It's the different types of fat that you mix in, and the mushroom roux with butter.
Good.
So basically, you use like a cheap cut of pork. I generally upgraded like a very old traditional Bulgarian recipe, which is just like pork belly with onions, like a shit ton of onions, lots and lots and lots and lots of onions, and paprika. That's it. That's the original recipe. In my case, I add mushrooms and green peppers, like the normal Bulgarian peppers,
Mm-hmm.
not these like bell peppers. It's like the bell peppers. They compare to our peppers. They taste like almost like cardboard. I don't like them. So you brown the meat. You caramelize the onions. You soften the peppers, and then you cook the mushrooms in some butter. Then add more butter. Add rendered chicken fat.
Ooh.
Add beef fat if you have it instead of the chicken fat.
Yeah.
But you have to have at least 2 types of fat for this to be called a special stew. I mean, I call it special. It's not that special, but and then you use when you after you make the roux with at least like 4 spoons of flour and more butter. You mix everything in. You add a heaping spoon of it's a paste, which is tomato paste and pepper paste mixed together with some olive oil, and you added it. I personally like to make the stew hot, so I add some lots of chili flakes, dry chili flakes or chili paste if you have it.
Mm.
And then you cook it slowly for about like maybe 40 minutes, because most of it's already cooked. You just want to have the meat soak in all the flavors, then release them, and then soak them in again. And you want to like reduce the liquid so it gets real thick, but usually it's super thick. It's a thick stew, and it's spicy.
Good.
Yeah, and with that bread, it's the bread has like a natural sweetness from the milk. Obviously, don't add sugar. We're not heretics. We don't put sugar in the normal bread unless it's a cake. But cake is not bread, and bread is not cake.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Why? Because cake has what?
Yes.
Sugar.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the stuff. Oh, hello, Magic John.
Maggie!
Yeah, Maji hopping there in the chat, a usual suspect here on the stream from time to time.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Get over
Yeah,
here.
she's got her book out, I believe.
I know.
Legends of Shalar. Talking
Finally. Yeah.
Yes, that one was in production for a while. Have you ever done a long production for a book there, Black Knight? What was your longest production?
Well, my longest production so far is the current one that I'm working on, the 8th one.
Yeah.
But it's a longer. It's the longest production because of life happenings. It's not because that I didn't want to complete it or anything, or I didn't have all the drafted scenes from the chapters and the structure, and no, it's just had to do some surgeries and some renovations and this and that, and so it has been like 2 years already, which I usually release about like 2 books a year.
You're right.
Yeah.
Things been slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, life does get in the way sometimes of the production time. How about you, Snow? What was the longest production you had? I think she stepped away for a moment. She'll be rejoining us in a bit. I don't think I've actually ever had a really long production, because most of the stuff I produce is just short stories.
Yeah, but short stories. Sometimes I had like short stories in like a couple of the like quote chapters, episodes, which took me months to write. So
yeah, I've always kind of given myself kind of strict deadline. I think the
yeah,
longest probably right now with this, like, because I'm a little over 30-ish days on
Oh
the
wow.
current
oh
series of short stories.
yeah,
Like, which
I
is the
have
longest.
one. I have one which I can't. I have the all the outlines and most of the scenes. I just can't get the time. It's
Mhm.
just an issue with time because I have
Yeah.
a few projects which have to be completed, and I just can't get to it.
Mm.
Sadly,
How long? What's your usual writing speed?
uh, writing speed. You mean words per day?
I used to say words per
Because
hour.
it's like it's not. I mean, it depends. Back in the day, I could work for longer hours. I was
Yeah.
healthier. I could.
But words per hour. Let's go words per hour.
Mm,
You sit down, you got an hour to write. How much words are you usually writing?
mm, maybe 1,000.
1,000? That's not bad. Pretty
Yeah.
decent.
Maybe
A good 1,000 words.
it depends. Depends because back in the day, I did not have that many distractions.
Mhm.
And I was healthier. I could concentrate for a longer periods of time. Probably back then I could like do 2,000 plus.
All right, not bad. 2,000 plus.
So yeah, I remember well because I had days where I wrote like uh, short under 20,000 words, but that's
Mhm.
like for 16, 17 hours of work.
Yeah, sitting
Yeah, not bad. How about you, Snow? What's your usual writing speed?
my usual writing speed is it's usually I'll try to crank out about 1,500 if I sit down and I'm saying, okay, I'm working on a project between 1,500 and 3,000 words. Usually a full scene. I try to, when I sit down and I try to work a scene, I usually write the whole scene out first. Then I go back and I either fill in or take something out, try to work it a little bit. So usually I'll start off over my limit. I say, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to write 2,000 to 3,000 words. Then I'll cut it down to what it needs to be. If it looks like it's, especially if it's dialogue that's too heavy, then I take it back down. So I end up with this thing where I actually keep making more words than I need and then taking it down. So I don't know, does it count if you wrote all the words and then you took half of them out? Does it count as a word count or does it not?
I'm not sure. I guess it is your own process.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit different. Some I think it was a year, no, 2 years, um, when I attempted a different, like I tried a different process. I wrote less words per hour, but I spend more time rearranging it and tweaking the scenes
Yeah.
in advance, and it looked like that it looked like to me that I wrote less, but it was actually more. The issue with that was it demands more of my brain, and my brain is no longer capable of it. So I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's taking it in the chunk. You can take it. And also there's times when life makes it hard to write. And the toughest time I had writing, probably the longest period that I didn't write was probably about a month. And it was while my husband was in the hospital. I still wrote.
Yeah, I remember.
Yes, I actually wrote something for a subject. Right now, I've been office edit says been so obsessed with getting my work edited. I've actually pulled back slightly. I've only posted like once a week, so I'm really sorry about that, guys. I know I haven't been on Substack. It's life has been crazy. I told y'all I have my husband's father-in-law's in early stages of needing extra care, and where he lives all the way out in East Texas, so we've been trading out. But so I haven't been putting as much on Substack. Well, whenever life gets like that, a lot of times I write the little things, poems or things like that can be done in one sitting and go to it. But because my father-in-law needs eccentric hair, it's hard to sit and work on it because he's right there. He'll come up and he'll say something about something that he needs help with because he doesn't remember how to do it, or something's not working, like the remote, or something. He thought the remote was a phone. It was so cute. I was like, he's holding it, it's a remote. And I was like, you can't, make the phone turn on the TV. He's like trying to do it, and but it's little things like that keep you from getting really into the meat of the writing. So I haven't been doing as much. But this is where the big writing comes in. And you were talking about the part where we're, like trying to, what's the longest I've ever taken to write something. When David was in the hospital, I wrote a few things on Substack, and then I wrote some I had actually just sent out my Trail Travail for edit. It was not yet published. It was published later that fall. Because I take a long time on edits. I usually have a first edit, developmental edit. I go back in and I work on stuff, and then I take it back in. Well, in this case, I had some scenes that I cut from that book because I had scenes that I just loved, that are they're characters that I've come up with, things that I have doing, but I had too many threads in that book. Well, those scenes that I wrote during that period, and some of them were just that flowed, but they were just simply too chunky in that book. There was too many things going on. So I've got them set aside because it's a particular arc that has to take place. Those ones now, that's been 3 years. Those are just now coming for the next book. That arc is finally here. And I had just written it in, and I'm like, you know what? So Hellbilly Highway is the third book in the second series. It's Trail of Travail, Caballeros del Camino, and then Hellbilly Highway, which is now out for its first round of edits from Daniel P. Riley, is getting the beta reading done. And I have 2 other beta readers, actually 3 that are reading right now, getting through with that so I can hear them before I send it in for developmental edit. And that, I had it all written in, and I used those scenes again, beefed it up, made it really huge. And it was so much writing. It was almost 200,000 words in this one book. And I was like, that's probably a little much for most of my readers. So I chopped it down again. And now I have 2 books. We talked about that before. I've got 2 books now. Those scenes that I first wrote with my husband being in the hospital 3 years ago are now the almost a complete book that has a complete story arc and everything for my next book, which I believe, and I'm saying this on, is Arena Del More. And so that's going to be the 10th book in the Watcher the Dam series and the first book of the next series. So now they finally have all come together, and it's sitting there at like 70 to 80,000 words. That whole series right there. I've still got Hellbilly Highway out. So that's probably my longest write, is once where I've written it in and then taken it out and said, I can't introduce these characters yet. They're there. They're in the conversation, but they're not yet in there. It's not their time. It's like waiting for a baby to be born. And so that's 3 years that those scenes have been there, that I wrote them, and they've been waiting, and it's been patient, and they're perfect, just like they are. And it makes the full story, and it actually creates its own entire book. And I think that process has really taught me about this week that I'm having, where there's, a lot of chaos in my life, and life is like that. Life is beautiful, and it's tumbly, and people and different things that are coming up, but it always somehow fits together, just like the book. Somehow these little chapters that get separated from each other and get pushed around, and everything's this way or that way, and you don't know where it's going to fit in the final series. It all comes together. If you just be patient and let it have its little special time, it's going to come around. And it's been so gratifying that this week when I sat down, I was like, I can't write. I'm not able. I've got so much. I can't do it. I've got Easter week at church, and then my father-in-law, and then there's other things happening in my life. And I was like, wait a minute. God's writing my story. And right now, all these little chapters are being pushed around, and it's all going to come out in the end. And I just have to be patient and let it happen. And sometimes that means for us too, to be patient with our own stories, even as God is patient with us. We can write our stories with that same patience, knowing that if we just take the time and let those characters, stew and cook and build up that wonderful roux like you're talking about with your soups, they will become as beautiful and wonderful as a dish that took that long to create.
Wow-wee, not bad. Black Knight dropped out there for a second, but I'm sure he'll be right back.
Probably going to look at his roux.
Yeah, that kind of just reminds me of just the artistic aspects of writing as a whole.
Yeah.
They can get almost spiritual at times, just because of how dynamic one's writing can be. You can explore the circumferences of your imagination or dig deep into your own heart and try to find the poetry of your soul, if you will. So there's just a lot you can do with writing there, and that's where the journey kind of comes in, when we kind of step aside from just the plot elements, or we're looking at it through a scientific lens, if you would, or a constructive dynamic analysis, and we just almost feel it. You feel the writing, you see those artistic punctuations and the choices of your particular words sort of blend together to create a tapestry of words there. And that's kind of what I've learned to love about writing in a way that I didn't necessarily understand before taking that journey, because I've been writing for about 3 years now, not too long, 3 years, and just kind of going at it and nonstop. I think I've produced, like my first year, I produced 10 short stories, and since then I've produced at least 3 times as much now. So writing in itself is a journey. It's not just about getting everything perfect. It's not just about trying to get as much readers as possible or get a book deal or something. Yeah. There's a personal growth in the writing where you can truly grow as a human being if you sort of take the journey seriously and incorporate the practice of writing more so than just a hobby.
Yeah.
But allow it to become like just a part of you. Like you are. That's why I kind of don't go around telling people, oh, I'm a writer. Because I personally don't like the fact that the terminology, all you have to do is scribble something on a paper.
Yeah.
It's like, congratulations, you're a writer. I think there's something to it deeper than that to really take the craft seriously. And that's even saying that there's a level that I haven't explored in that writer's journey yet, in that deeper, more philosophical craft of it all. You see this a lot when you sort of listen to these professional writers or people who are writers. They've been at it for a while, discuss it, and it goes beyond craft at times. You can see them trying to form words around those artistic notions that seem to be understood on a deeper level, but are produced through this medium. I hope all that makes sense in a more of an artsy fartsy way.
Oh, I think it makes perfect sense. It's I often say that it's like giving birth to a baby, and of course this is a very female centric, idea to want to talk about. But it literally is. It's like being pregnant. At first, you can't see this child. You know somebody's there, but you don't know who it is. You don't know where they are, and they're in there somewhere, but there's not that sense of personhood yet. They're still there. They're still growing. Those little ideas, those little things. And as you go through this journey, this creation starts to get bigger and starts to take, you can see the life that was once there just an idea in your mind that, oh, there's someone there. Now it's growing and it's changing and it's becoming larger. And I know Maji went through this with her own book. And at first it's just an idea and it seems so far away. And this is not just for writing. I mean, it can be for a painting too, or a creation, a house you're building, or anything, a garden. The idea is there first, and it seems so far away. And you start working your way through it, and you're on this journey with it. And it's not just you. You may be creating, but the creation itself, the baby, the book, the garden, the house, it's a living thing, and it starts to take shape on its own. You start to react back and forth with it. That time when you're painting and it just suddenly just goes on the canvas and you see a color you never saw before, when you see lines that you would never have imagined even, and you're like, this is more beautiful than I imagined it was. It's gone beyond your imagination. Well, the writing takes that way. So now you have this book that's growing, and it's not just inside your head now. You can see it moving. You can see it. It's real. It's alive. And as we get closer to time for delivery, it starts to take shape in a way that sometimes it's frightening, that this is not just something that we created, and it's not just inside our head now. It's going to be coming out, and people are going to look at it, and they're going to make decisions about it, or they're going to judge it based on its cover, or they're going to judge what you did based on whether or not it succeeds or fails 50 years from now. The weight of the world comes upon you, and you're waiting the birth of this thing. And then one day, it's born. The book's on the paper. I just now pulled out Maji's book
Yeah.
out of her cover, and to see it in my hands, it is a child. It is a child. We have been waiting 3 years for this child. And to see it in real life, it is now there. It is now out of the author's hands and into the world. It is its own creation. And it will start to grow inside the mind of the reader. Now it is out of our hands. It is like being a mother. I've said being a mother is having your heart outside of your body, walking around for the rest of your life. And you can't stop what's coming. You can't stop the hurt, the pain, the heartache. You can't stop the far away or the near. You can't stop the going away or the coming home. And maybe not ever coming home. All you can do is know that what you created is out there, that it's forever and nothing can ever erase it. From this point forward, the legend of Shalar is real. Maji wrote a book. She's an author. Nothing can take that away. Nobody can make that not happen. It was real. It happened. Just like children who were lost early in life or pregnancies that never came. Those things are still real. They were still there. Nobody can destroy it. And this book is forever. Nobody can change the fact that it was created, that it existed, that when it is taken into my mind and I read these words, that I will have that my own image. And even if nobody else ever saw that book ever again, the words that I say to somebody else down the line are going to be shaped by this. I will have memories of characters that someone else has written. And even if they don't know where that phrase came from, Maji created it. It was alive and real. And they will remember. Just like we pass on our genes far down the line, very few people remember what their great-grandparents' name was. But every day they look in the mirror, it's there, right there in front of you. That sacred signature of DNA and life, all coming together that death cannot erase. These things that we have inside of us, the creations, the art, the music, the spirituality, the gardens and houses and spaceships and everything else that are creations of man and woman, these are our legacy. And that takes time. You can't rush it. Sometimes things happen all at once and it's wonderful. Put it on the paper, let it live. But there's other times that things take time to grow. And we have to be able to let that process happen, to let it be a special time. It's not just rushing to get it out. It's that first moment of knowing there's life. It's the first day that you feel something move. And it's the last day you hold someone's hand and let them go. The creative process is a facet of the divine parenthood. And you have created. And now you're going to let it live forever. Because nothing can undo what you have created. Beauty cannot be destroyed. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And that is what happens when we put our works into the hands of the people who will see us. Our lives are transformed. Our legacy lives on. The creation is forever.
And Maji says in the chat, I appreciate you guys. So she's tuning in. And we also got the Ultimate Kahuna joining us as well for yet another poetic moment in Taryn Tuesday history. There's a lot of these. We're actually going to have to go back. I'm going to have to take some of these recordings. We're going to have to try to transcribe them or something because I think there's a lot of great information in these podcasts of ours.
I think that's one of the things that we like the most. It's there used to be what was called the long form, and we talked about it before, long form interviews on TV.
Yeah,
the Frost Show was one of them, where it was an hour and a half of just sitting down and talking to one person, and they would have extended interviews. And we see that now actually on like the Joe Rogan Show and others, where there's like 3, 4, 5 hours of somebody just talking, and people crave that. We crave that interaction. Well, our podcast, because you have us on here for an hour and a half and you have people just show up like Maji and Christian and Grand and everybody, and they're part of our conversations. And so when we're doing that, it's an extended form of that connectivity, that interaction between us and people out there in the chat. And we're able to connect with each other in such a way that those moments actually take shape. It is almost like writing a book. It really is. Gran will say something, or Wrangler will say something. It's this little thing out here. Kahuna will make a funny joke, and you respond, with something, and it creates its own chapter. It creates its own book. This is a dialogue between characters. You're the that dude that comes up with all the brilliant inventions. You're that one. You're that dude at like the console and everything. It's really nice. Maji's like the princess. She's gonna show up. She's gonna do something cool. Grant's like the one that always makes people feel better. Wrangler's the one that's always got some sort of insight. It's like this one thing that he says. Then he puts 420 at the end of it, and everybody who comes to this, everybody who shows up, Bob, if he's there, Bob's the one guy who comes in and he'll say something that just lights up the room, and then it'll split later. Those things that happen to us, the characters in this show, the people who show up. This is a long form conversation. You can find a magic moment in almost every one of these where it creates an extended play dialogue between characters, and it turns into its own show.
You can. I mean, well, that is what writing is, isn't it? It's trying to, like, in a way, mimic life, create a slice of life that didn't exist or does exist, depending on what form of writing we're talking here. But a lot of it is that, trying to mimic life in a literary fashion, a record of something.
Yeah. Well, the word is, it's a record of a memory in our head, of an image in our head. Literally, we start off with this, especially when we're talking about writing, but even so with art or music or anything else. We've just got this mishmash of a feel in there, and that we have to translate it into language or to brushstrokes or into notes, into a hammer. How many flowers go here creates a color. A garden is almost always actually a painting made with plants, and you have that that image in your head, but you can't transcribe it. It has to be itself. I can paint a garden, but it's a painting. It's not a garden. It's a painting. It's an interpretation. I can plant a garden, but it's temporal. It will disappear unless I have a record of it. And the record itself could be a photo, or it can actually be the seeds for the next garden.
True.
And the same thing with our words in our head. I always said that words are immortality in ink. They're forever. Words on a printed page last. They're a legacy. And so when we have that image in our head, that first moment of conception, that first inkling of what might be coming, I think that we have a tendency to mull it over so much that we sometimes forget that that's part of the process. So many times, most of us have a trigger for it. For me, it's almost always music. I have a playlist that's almost 300 songs that's just scenes of that I have movie music or a certain song, and it had an image in my head of who was going to be standing there seeing this thing, and it immediately rolls over this thing. I will sometimes go back and listen to that music over and over again and let this scene play out, and it may take days before I write it down, because I'm rolling through this image in my head. And the thing about it is that daydreams are usually kind of short. If you've ever actually done it where you said, man, I just had a scene in my head, if you've ever actually timed it, it's almost less than a minute. It's almost always, it's just a little snippet of a scene. And then there's a jump, and then there's another snippet of a scene. Very rarely is it flowing all the way through from one end to the other. And one of the things we're doing is we're weaving this tapestry of image and word into an actual book. It is weaving a tapestry, and there's points in between. And for me, when we were talking about how hard it is to write, I'll have 3,000 words can be done with dialogue. I can just rip right through dialogue in no time. Scenes where they're traveling, it's so easy for me. I can just write it down, and there's all the places they're going. I see it in my head, and I'm able to travel there. My problem is the transition. It's the transition from the scene where they're talking to the next scene where they're going somewhere. And I will be able to write 3,000 words on dialogue. The next day, I may take a week to write 200 words. That is about how we got from that point of them sitting and talking to each other to being on the road to this next level of, oh, they're going to be down here. And that transitional scene is so brutal for me, because that's actually about the structure of the story, about the journey itself. I mean, know where they are, but it doesn't flow right. I mean, one of the hardest things for me to do is the fact that I know what they're doing next, and I frequently will obsessively write about. I'll have
it's like a minute by minute thing. It's like watching High Noon. One of the things about High Noon, if you've never seen it, with is it Cary Grant? No, I forget. I think the fact that he goes out there and it's almost minute by minute on the screen that you watch as the clock ticks down, and every moment that's happening in the story, it's literally live. It doesn't ever jump. It's like having one slow take. Nothing is skipped. Every moment that happens is on that screen. It's 2 hours in a man's life, and it shows up exactly 2 hours. Well, there's times that I write like that where it's literally, okay, they're going here and now they put out their bedroll, and I write the whole darn thing. They're putting out bedrolls, and all of a sudden I realize that I am absolutely info dumping. It's not, not info dumping, it's scene dumping, I guess.
Yeah.
And it may be fascinating. It's fascinating to me because I love to go camping. And so I'm going to talk about how they put the bedroll out and they lit the fire and the coffee was on there and it was boiling and stuff. And then I go, okay, but now I have to go back and say, does this really fit? Is this going to advance the story other than the fact that we know they're tired? There's only so many times I can talk about how they rolled out the bedroll. A lot of, if you're on a camping trip, if you've ever camped, you know this, you repeat the actions. You're so tired at the end of the day, you'll literally roll your stuff out, put your stuff up in the tree, make sure you're safe and you have your fire where it needs to be, and then you're asleep. Boom, you're gonna, you're done. It repeats. So while it's fascinating, it may not add to it. You have to have a way now to say, okay, that same thing happened tonight, but it can't be boring, and you can't go and then they slept, and so there has to be a time jump. The worst one that I've had recently, I was actually going through, and this is for Hellbilly Highway. I'm doing the edit for the time, and I go through and I actually do a continuum check, where I go through and I put at the beginning of each scene, I have what the scene is and what it does, and I create a scene map.
Yeah.
And so I go in and I found a time lapse where it was that one scene was the sun is at this point in the sky. And I actually do use that as a transition, that a character will look up and see the sun or the moon or something like that. And it's one of the ways that I tie scenes together. They're seeing the same stars. They're realizing this. Well, there was one that was out of place. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just move it. I'll just put it up here. And it's like little Tetris blocks, just fit it in, wiggle it in, write a transition. Suddenly I realized I'm too far ahead. There's something I mentioned here that hadn't happened yet. I can't put it back there. I either have to rewrite the scene or I need to just put the moon in a different place. Am I willing to do that? Is that going to happen? And so I have to go back in it, and I had to rewrite it to where it fit in, where the time frame was still polite. And now I had a time jump that was in a different place. And I have to figure out, how am I going to tell my audience that we've moved ahead 7 days? That's hardly ever happened in Watcher of the Dam. We very rarely have ever gone more than a few hours without talking to one of our crew. But we're on the road, and I know that it's going to be a tough road to go down, and it's going to be pretty much the same thing. We had a time jump. So the way I did it was I had one character writing a letter or reading a letter from somebody, and it was dated at the top. The next scene starts with an email that has a timestamp and a date at the top. So now those guys have got to be together. They have to fit. And it's really hard because if I mess that up, it won't work. So I get all of those little pieces to fit together to still tell the story, because we have so many threads. We've got about 4 different factions we're following at this point, and each faction has its own arc. So now that's where that came in, that I had to say, you know what, this other arc, the consortium arc is what I'm going to call it. And if you've read far enough in the book, you'll know where the consortium is. The consortium's finally revealed. We finally get a chance to meet them. If they have their own book, because there were so many threads. And I had one reader who said, no, it's great. I love it. If you take it out, I'm going to miss it. And I was like, you're a really brilliant dude. And for my average reader might have a hard time staying up with everything and not feeling overwhelmed. Not because they're average in that sense, but because if I take an average of my betas. So I say, okay, if I've got 4 people and 3 of them like something and one doesn't, then there's a certain average of who likes this and who doesn't. And I never base what I put in the book on what they like or don't like, but the structure of the story, I will definitely listen to them. And so far, everybody's loved these scenes. It has to move. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make this decision before I give it to my betas. And that's when we split. So that this edit process and the transitional scenes, that's been on my heart a lot, because I've been writing transitional scenes now for probably the last month.
Hello.
Okay.
Hey, there you are. Where did you go?
Hello.
Hi, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
I can hear you, but it's It's very faint.
Oh, well, we can hear you really well.
Hmm.
Oh no, maybe you got to turn up your volume a little bit.
Really, really faint. Let me try something.
Yeah, try something.
Give me a second.
Technical issues galore. They always happen when you don't want them to the most.
Yeah, for real.
Yes, but you were saying so.
Oh, so that was the thing about this last bit of process was I realized that scenes are easy for me.
Uh-huh.
Transitions and making sure that continuity works are the biggest thing.
It fixed itself.
Oh, it
Nice.
did. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking
I lost I lost connection because we had a power outage here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then my computer refused to start.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Wow, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Wait,
it's
you were gone.
sometimes we have these like weird power outages here, even though the system has been upgraded, at least so that's what they say. But we have them, and then immediately after the first power outage, there is another power outage. So I don't know what's if you might lose me again. I have no idea. Yeah, it's very weird. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Snow was talking about something about her process right now, her difficulties between scenes and transitions. Is that correct, Snow?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
different. What is the hardest thing for you to write? Is it scenes or dialogue, or is it just the story structure itself? What is the hardest part for you?
Well, it depends. In the beginning, when I was like super green, dialogue was the hardest. I mean, super green in terms of English, and obviously, I wasn't like that green in terms of writing in storytelling. But yeah, the English was an issue. It still is because it's my third language, and I'm sometimes I'm thinking in reverse because the sentence structure is different. So dialogue was probably the hardest. That the transition, scene transition, that was the second hardest. And the third hardest was the structure, because sometimes you have to make a choice. Obviously, we have our own style, and in some cases, it's like you can sacrifice tiny things for style purpose, but not too much, because if you go like full on style, it will be practically like these strange art pieces that not even like the top critics can understand what the artist meant. And we don't want that, because we are writing, we want our readers to connect with with our characters and what they want, what they need, or why they fight for, why are they striving to do things, and how do they get to their goals. Yeah, that's my answer.
I think you're right about that. It seems like everybody's pointing at I hear a lot of people talk about dialogue. I don't know how Wrangler feels about this. I know for James, I think usually James, you said you actually don't have that big of a problem with dialogue, but
no, he doesn't. I mean, he sent me, James, you did send me 2 stories, if I remember correctly. One was that vampire story, and yeah, the dialogue was it flowed. I don't think James has any issues with dialogue.
I never really had a problem with it. At least I don't think so. Though I did
No,
recently sort of, I guess you say, quote unquote, fortify my knowledge on dialogue by reading a pretty good book recently on it. But
Ooh, which one?
Nice.
it's literally called Dialogue. Let me see. It's in this drawer. It's right next to me. Open up this drawer. Hopefully, I don't knock anything over. Have a few.
When I had
here.
some issues with dialogue, I always go to Jules Verne.
It's called Dialogue: The Art of Verbal Action from the Page, Stage, and Screen by Robert McKee.
Ooh,
It's pretty good.
stage and screen, nice.
Yeah. It's primarily made for screenplays, but the knowledge is very transferable in general when it comes to dialogue. It covers literature as well.
I think theater is the golden standard for dialogue.
Possibly. They use a lot. I would say yes if you also include radio theater, because that one is even more so, because
it's
but
like
they also call it
200%.
basically it's 100% dialogue led, because you can't see anything. You can only hear what people are saying and what you hear sound wise, but it's also considered theater in itself. So I kind of pair that up with live theater as well, though there's clear differences, and I'm sure theater experts be able to break that down in a greater degree.
Yeah, that's probably one of my most it's not, it wasn't that hard, but I think it was quite challenging, was the weaving of dialogue into action scenes and vice versa. And that was a bit of a challenge, and that's why in some of my, well, not some, most of my first works, I tended to keep my action scenes dialogue free for the most part, not all of them, but that was apprehensive. It's nah, should I say something? Should they say something here? I mean, they're fighting for their lives, everything is burning around them, would they say, haha, I got you there, villain, or something like, I have you, I'm going to kill you, Mr. Bond, or something like that. It's super cool. It's cool if you can weave it in, but if you I couldn't. I just couldn't. I tried, but it didn't feel right. So it took me years. It took me a couple of years to begin to work it in. So
remember, you're also, so much of what you're doing is in space or on different planets.
Things,
yes. So you have a reason for dialogue to not be. You
have
a layer of dialogue.
Thank you for saying that, because I remember something. We had a long chat with a couple of other authors some years ago, and each of us we had a theory about certain things in certain fictional settings. Why did they have audio? So one of the prevalent reasons why sentient creatures which evolved in on planets with air where you can hear and they have hearing would want to have some kind of sounds. It's for psychological reasons. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now, what do you mean by sounds?
The sounds of shooting, explosions, machine sounds, it's you remember they made these experiments. They're these really heavy on the psyche experiments by inserting people into almost 100% completely soundless environment. The human mind cannot suffer this.
I heard about that.
It was I don't know, it was super popular, this study. and some of the participants, they had like experienced heavy psychological issues after that. For those who remained in this environment for the longest, they had like the most issues. So basically what my theory was that you need part of your computer, and it will be like a super tiny amount of processing power to actually produce sounds that is to keep your mind at ease.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. You need like in your even in your spacesuit. I mean, obviously it has air and you have to breathe. But even in your spacesuit, you need to hear stuff. Like you need to hear some like creaks and whines and ticks and buzzes of the machinery, even though the machinery is super modern and is probably soundless. No, you still need to hear that. And especially those who fight in space, they would love to have the sounds of the guns when they activate their guns, even if they don't see. And that's the other reason. They have to see the beams, even though in space you can't see the beams. You have to see them. So your scanner will overlay the beams, so you can see the fucking beams, and you can hear like some generic sound of the beams, like maybe not the pew pew sound of the TIE fighter blasters or the stuff from Star Wars, but something like that. And in the engines, I mean, you have to hear the hum of the machinery. That your mind needs it. That's why you have it.
Well, let me say this, because I know that this is, and we'll talk about this in a second, but I was actually deaf as a child. Now, and so there's a difference about it. Of course, when you're deaf, it doesn't mean you can't hear anything. I really was totally stone deaf. And I actually had that corrected through surgery, and that's amazing. But one of the things, the reason why we're talking about why it's so disturbing to people when they walk into that environment, is they're used to the input. They're seeking the input that they have in that system. So when you're used to hearing, you are expecting a sound to come back when you tap on something, or when you say a word. That's your input. It's an expected outcome. That unexpected outcome is not there. So it's not the not hearing. It's not the fact that there's no sound. It's that the expected reaction, you creating something and it coming back to you, you hearing something you expect, is not there. You start to have a disconnect from reality. If I tap, it should make a sound. Well, I can tell you, as a person who experienced a loss of hearing and grew up that way, actually speaking words but not able to hear anything. I couldn't hear myself or others. So that experience, there's an expected outcome. I lost the ability to hear things. I became very frustrated because I could not hear music anymore. I was very young. I was a child. Probably lost my hearing around between the age of 18 months and 2 years. So I was fully able to speak because I spoke early, but I couldn't hear myself anymore, and I couldn't hear anybody else. It was like shouting.
Sorry, my freaking dog started licking my hand out.
But so that part was not there. So there was some of that I expected to hear something. The records got fainter and fainter until the last they didn't exist anywhere except in my head. But I had a chance to respond to the environment. There was a lot of frustration, a lot of acting out, and I didn't have that. But so people who were born without it learn how to get something through a different way. And what I learned was that I could lay my hand on something and feel the vibration. If somebody was clapping or calling to me, I could feel the vibration of a voice, and I could turn towards it. The clapping, my mother found out I was deaf by clapping behind my head, and I would turn to her, but I never answered her calling me. Got in trouble a lot. They didn't know I was deaf, and so I got spankings a couple of times because I got in trouble really badly when I was in kindergarten, because they thought I was ignoring them. They thought I wasn't listening to them. That's back when we used to get whooped in school, 1960s. And so I couldn't hear them talking to me. So I didn't know why people were upset with me. I didn't know what was happening. That expected outcome of saying, I make this noise, I should hear it. I'm doing this thing, I should hear it. Stop looking for that expected outcome if it's not coming back. Stop going to that. If you have a temporary loss of anything in your life, you can test it. I'm shouting, but I'm not hearing it anymore. People are no longer responding to me. You can step away from that for a minute. Find another path. That is the key to avoiding that damaging trauma of saying something that worked no longer works. Now, anybody who's ever been through a relationship breakdown knows exactly what this is. I thought you loved me. We were talking. Suddenly, you're not even there anymore. You're ghosting me on the phone. I can't hear your voice. What's happening? I don't understand. That's where the crazy comes in. You have to stop shouting into that void. It's not, that voice isn't coming back. Put your hand down and feel where another vibration is coming from. Find something else. Find a way to get around that loss. We're shouting into the void and no voice is coming back. It's time to move to a different method. You can always take a test again to see if that voice comes back, to see if that noise that you were expecting is happening. But otherwise, it's time to move forward. Put your hand down and feel the vibration. If you can't see, like my sight's better right now, but I still have degrading eyesight, and it's not the same as it was. And anyone who gets over a certain age will at some point experience a loss of some kind. But find a different way. Find another way to do that. When you can no longer see, try to hear what you can. When you can no longer hear, try to feel what you can. We have to teach ourselves that when the expected outcome doesn't come back, don't go crazy. Go do something else. Go find something else. Let the response that you are seeking still be out there, wherever it is. Let's find a different response.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I don't even remember what the original topic was there.
We were talking about
the sound in space and stuff.
Sound in
so
space.
so another author, she gave like an example from anime. She was Korean,
Okay.
and she said like this and that, and I'm like, okay, so why do they do it? And basically, she said that the in-universe explanation, I mean the explanation in the sci-fi universe, is that like these pilots of these space combat machines, I think they were like mechs, both mechs and starfighters, and they even on the like the bridges of the big ships, they had like these ambient sounds like that sound packs that they just ran, so the people would feel at ease. And like the in-universe explanation was that without this, they can still function, like they can fight, they can operate the ships, etc. But they have like lowered response times, just like what Snow says. Like they are used to it. They're used to having this response, and they can it would take them far too long, and it won't be a loss of time. They can't spend, like they can spare the time to retrain them and to condition them basically to stop expecting to hear these specific sounds. It's like much easier to just have them recorded, like generate the sounds and just run them. But then you have another issue. She said that like when they have accidents in space, because space even without war is dangerous as hell, when you have accidents and they can't hear the sounds that they used to, then a bit of a panic settles in, and the longer they are in these conditions, like the bad it gets. And some, maybe, I mean, they can survive, the humans can survive for like quite the time in stressful conditions, some better than others. But these space navies, they had this regulation, so to speak, and people who had been in these conditions, though they did survive them, they no longer send them to the front lines. They change their pretty much they change the qualifications and they send them somewhere else where they can still do stuff, but not with the chance of going into this extreme conditions, because they know that the second time they will fail, and if they fail, others will die because of their failure. So I mean, I think she did, it's like that point was absolutely amazing. Back then I did not know about that, and it gave me the idea for placing a lot of these small things, like these touches here and there about the sounds of what they hear, and the scanner overlays over their video feed, and this and that, and everything has this, like, it's a little point here and there, but that's what connects part of your fantasy universe or science fiction universe to reality, because we kind of model our aliens loosely on us, like we want to have we assume that they would have like similar feelings. Otherwise, if they're way too alien, sometimes it doesn't, it lands flat for the reader. Well, it depends on the reader, but it sometimes it lands too flat. So we kind of like almost like the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, who humanized their gods and made them almost like humans, but with superpowers. And you have them experience petty jealousy and be an asshole and be a raging bitch like Hera, or like an adult like cheater like Zeus, etc., etc. This is like we tend to do that even when we anthropomorphize stuff. We always tend to do it. It's just hardwired into us. So yeah.
No, you mentioned something on you're talking about that hard wiring, and the fact of that anything that challenges our own sensory experience, and especially what you were talking about in space, that they become upset, or when an accident happens, it takes away their abilities. In firefighting, we actually do a thing called sensory deprivation, where we put on a mask, put on a foil over our mask, and actually put it over our eyes so we can no longer see what's happening. Complete blackout is what it's called. And so you have your mask, you put it on. It's supposed to simulate being in a dark building with smoke billowing around you. People think that if you're in a fire that it's going to be bright. Actually, it's very dark. Sometimes you're in that swirl of smoke. And grown men have actually collapsed doing this, because they will be going out into a middle of a floor, and you're crawling on all fours, and you can, if you're in a hallway, you go and you find a wall or something that you can touch. Once again, we're talking about how to find your way. You get down on all fours. You don't belly crawl, because that can put you down where there are very dangerous toxic chemicals that sink. And then you don't dare stand up, because that's where the hot air is. You'll breathe in a lungful of 400-degree air and you're dead. So you have to crawl on all fours. You're in that sweet zone, about 18 inches to 3 feet off the ground. Now, when you do that, you're going to be just fine. You take care of yourself, but don't panic, because that panic is what can get you. Learn to use your hands, learn to use your senses. And when you do, it will help you with all of those things that you're so concerned about. You find a different way to do it.
In space, fires act differently, especially when you have, like, I had to. I mean, I didn't know anything about firefighting. I don't pretend I know stuff about it. I know some basic stuff. I remember reading about this, exactly what you said, like the firefighters crawling around. I had to imagine how it would be on a big spaceship in space, let's say if the gravity plating gives out, how would the fire act in 0G? What would happen? I mean, you have a bunch of science fiction movies where they try to explain it, try to show it, but it never really quite landed with me. And so I imagine that each fire on a spaceship is like almost like a miniature sun, because the sun is actually
Yeah.
So you have and you also have like different types of fires. Snow knows more about the different types of fires, but in space, like air is quite limited, especially on a damaged starship. And you can't have like a normal fire if the ship is open like this, the section of the ship is open to space. You literally can't have the fire, but you can have a plasma fire, because the fucking sun is exactly that. It's a big, huge fucking ball of plasma.
Mm-hmm.
And what is electricity? Electricity is plasma.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different. It's different. And when you have so many bent and focused magnetic fields, because on starships you do have to have them, then you can have floating fires, floating plasma fires, which I invented this, like maybe somebody else also invented it, but I don't know. But I invented this term, which is like humans call it the slithering flame. And it's basically, yes, they're in a safe area. It's like the section is secured. There are no fires. All plasma cables are cut. They are safe. And then they open some, like something opens, like some gap, or like some of the service tunnels, and then another plasma fire just slithers in because of the difference in the magnetic fields, and they're fucked.
And how do they fight these fires in space?
Well, basically, they can rely on on their magnetic boots
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent, because if there are like some of these slithering plasma fires, they rather not activate any magnetic fields, any additional magnetic fields, because it's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna be attracted, or their direction will change. And so in most cases they attempt to erect force fields around these and compress them with the force fields,
Mm-hmm.
or in some cases they even shoot at them with a specific beam weapon, but that's like the last resort. It's almost like these snow, how was that
So snow dropped out on us.
she dropped.
Right.
I think that how do they actually, do you know how do they douse the fires of like petrol, oil,
They got some kind of chemical that they drop on those on like a
the
helicopter.
explosion, was it explosive or something?
I know that they use explosions to
Something like that.
for
Yeah.
some fires, I believe, or at least I heard of it. I don't know personally.
I'm not like
Yeah.
I don't know, but what they do in space is like they have different types of beam weapons, and some of them they can disperse the plasma, though if they do not guess the intensity, it is basically is going to be they will turn it into a bomb, and it will explode. So it's the best way is to contain it with a force field, or redirect it with magnetic fields, trap it somewhere, and that's it. That's the best way. Maybe I'm just doing a lot of guesswork, but it's based on science, or at least on what I was able to. Yeah, I was able to read stuff and then extrapolate it. I had a friend back in the day. She was involved in physics. She was studying to become a quantum physicist. But she said that, like, at a certain point, it becomes guesswork. Like when you get to the boundaries of known physics, like it's guesswork. It's educated guesswork, and you have like this giant boards where you write huge
formulas,
formulas, and most of it is guesswork. It's like, x on the y and z and this and that. I don't understand. Like, my brain cannot work in this way. It's impossible for me to understand that.
Trying to find out what y is to x over z.
No, it's like not the normal equation.
I
It's
know.
like theirs are insane. So when I was doing all the guessworks around this, I kind of had like some basic physics from her, and she was trying to explain to me some of the quantum physics. It's almost like a religious cult. It's esoteric. It's esoteric, almost esoteric. When they start talking, I mean, she began talking about like energy beings and this and that, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? That suspiciously sounds like you're talking about ghosts. And she like talked to me about this theory and that theory, and suddenly I discovered that we have been talking for 6 or 7 hours, and she was just theorizing. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, it's so yeah, I even used that. I used that because it was too much fun.
So what did you mean by energy beings? How did that sort of tie into math?
It ties in with some theory that I wasn't able to understand anything, which they say that like it's a different dimension of energy, just like the normal physics speaks about dark matter,
Yeah.
And they say the quantum physicists say, no, there are more types of this, like the more other levels, other dimensions of it. We just don't know yet. Like, we don't know how to prove it mathematically. We can theorize mathematically. We can use like the physics to theorize, and we do that. And then that's why quantum physics is still quite theoretic. It's like it's the fringe science of science.
Okay, interesting.
But what she back in the day, what she said, that there are a bunch of quantum physicists who are working on applications of force fields, applied force fields, which they were beginning to work. I think it was like in 2000, it's like the early 2000s, they were beginning to work on this, like on plasma fields, like directed plasma fields in some universities in India, in Switzerland, or somewhere else, like in I'm not sure about the US. She didn't say, but they were beginning to work like seriously, like a lot of investment in that. Because I mean, you could, like, if you have this working plasma shield, you can literally go and dive into a volcano, and you can imagine
well,
the scientific
I
applications.
imagine theoretically you'd have a hard time
theoretically.
breathing underneath there.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like a ship of some sort.
Well, with that said, we are 5 minutes away from the half-hour mark, so we're gonna have to save this conversation for we'll talk sci-fi next time in the more theoretical sense. Maybe them on the harder sci-fi, if I can remember that we had this minor conversation within our conversation. But we are 4 minutes out from the half-hour mark. We want to respect everyone's time. So, Black Knight, where can people find you, and what are you working on?
Well, I'm currently working on the 8th book of the Star Shutter series. I hope to have it this year out this year. And I'm my current works in progress on Substack. The second book of the Wandering Whispers, like the shallow fantasy, which is published every Wednesday. It's in the last act, like only a couple of chapters left, like 5 maybe. And Friday, Sci-Fi Day, I started, like last Sci-Fi Day, I started my sci-fi detective story, which you will probably like. If I remember correctly, you like detective stories.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, so that's that.
Sci-fi detective. All right, you got some links down below for everyone to click on. But R.H. Snow unfortunately had to drop out. You can check out her link down below for some of her books on Amazon. But thank each and every single one of you for joining us live. If you're watching this on the replay, give us a like, share with your friends, leave a comment. We read them, though I gotta be more attentive to reply to all of them. But with that, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Have an awesome rest of your day. We on this end are out.